The transport shuttle hummed through hyperspace, carrying passengers from 17 different worlds toward the galactic trade station at Kepler 442. In the cramped passenger compartment, beings of various species clustered together in loose groups. The crystalline Vorthak near the viewing ports, the amphibious Quellan delegation huddled in the moisture-controlled section, and the elegant Zephyrians occupying the premium seats with their characteristic air of superiority. In seat 47C sat Zaraketh, and the 3 seats around her remained conspicuously empty. She was a Malkorian, her species known throughout the galaxy for their exceptional engineering skills and their unfortunate biological quirk. They naturally secreted pheromones that most other species found overwhelmingly unpleasant. The scent wasn't dangerous, merely potent. It reminded the Vorthak of decay, made the Quellans nauseous, and caused the Zephyrians' sensitive respiratory systems to go into overdrive. Zaraketh had grown accustomed to the isolation. She pulled her work tablet closer, reviewing the schematics for the new hyperspace stabilizer she'd designed. The Galactic Council had specifically requested her expertise. Malkorian engineering was unmatched in the known galaxy, but that didn't make the journey any less lonely. The shuttle shuddered slightly as it dropped out of hyperspace for a scheduled refueling stop at Waystation Gamma. More passengers boarded, including a small group of humans. Zaraketh observed them with interest. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 50 standard years ago, but they'd already gained a reputation for being unusual. She watched as the other passengers gave them the same suspicious looks they'd given her, though for different reasons. Humans were known to be unpredictable, sometimes foolishly brave, sometimes recklessly curious. They had a disturbing tendency to befriend dangerous creatures, explore deadly environments, and generally ignore sensible warnings about things that could kill them. One of the humans, a young woman with auburn hair tied back in a practical ponytail, scanned the compartment for empty seats. Her gaze landed on the seats around Zaraketh. Without hesitation, she walked over. "Excuse me," the human said in accented galactic standard. "Is anyone sitting here?" Several nearby passengers turned to stare, waiting for the inevitable reaction, when the human caught Zaraketh's scent. The Malkorian tensed, preparing for the usual polite excuse and hasty retreat. The human, Liana, according to her travel badge, settled into seat 47D and took a deep breath. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of recoiling, her expression softened and a small smile played at the corners of her mouth. "Oh," she said quietly, more to herself than to Zaraketh. "It reminds me of home." Zaraketh stared at her, mandibles clicking involuntarily in surprise. Excuse me." Liana turned to face her fully, and Zaraketh was struck by the warmth in the human's brown eyes. "Your scent," Liana explained. "It's like the eucalyptus groves back on Earth where I grew up, mixed with something earthy, like petrichor after rain. My grandmother used to take me walking through those groves when I was little." You find it pleasant?" Zaraketh's voice carried a note of disbelief that her translator couldn't quite mask. "Very much so. I hope you don't mind me saying, but I've been feeling homesick since I left the Sol system. This is comforting." Liana extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "I'm Liana Chen, xenobotanist. I'm heading to Kepler 442 to study their indigenous plant life." Tentatively, Zaraketh reached out with her own 4-fingered hand. "Zaraketh of the Malkor Engineering Consortium. I'm consulting on hyperspace infrastructure." Around them, other passengers had returned to their conversations, though several continued to cast curious glances their way. It was unprecedented. No one voluntarily sat near a Malkorian during transport. "What's Earth like?" Zaraketh found herself asking. She'd read about the human homeworld, of course, but academic descriptions felt inadequate. Liana's face lit up. "Incredibly diverse. Forests that stretch for thousands of kilometers, oceans deeper than most worlds' entire atmospheres, deserts that bloom with life after the rains come. And the smells. Every region has its own signature. My favorite was always the eucalyptus, groves in Australia where my grandmother lived. The trees release oils that hang in the air, especially when it's warm, mixed with the smell of earth and growing things. She trailed off, looking slightly embarrassed. Sorry, I get carried away talking about plants. Please, continue, Zaraketh said, genuinely interested. Malkor is quite different. Our world is mostly underground cities, with carefully controlled atmospheres. We have gardens, but they're engineered for efficiency rather than beauty. That sounds fascinating from an engineering perspective. How do you balance air circulation with plant respiration in enclosed spaces? For the first time in months of travel, Zaraketh found herself engaged in genuine conversation. They talked about atmospheric engineering, about the challenges of terraforming, about the incredible diversity of plant life Liana had encountered on different worlds. The hours passed quickly. When the shuttle's captain announced their approach to Kepler 442, Zaraketh felt an unexpected pang of disappointment. Perhaps, she said hesitantly, when we both complete our assignments, you might visit Malkor. I could show you our engineered ecosystems. They're not natural, but they have their own beauty. Liana grinned. I'd love that. And maybe you could visit Earth sometime. I think you'd find our natural chaotic ecosystems interesting from an engineering perspective, how they self-regulate without any central planning. As they gathered their belongings, other passengers watched in amazement. The human had not only tolerated the Malkorian's presence, but had actually seemed to enjoy it. Liana, Zaraketh said as they prepared to disembark, thank you. It's been a long time since anyone chose to sit beside me. Their loss, Liana replied firmly. I got to learn about hyperspace engineering from one of the galaxy's best engineers, and I got to smell home again. I'd say I got the better end of this deal. As they walked off the shuttle together, still deep in conversation about the symbiotic relationships between technology and biology, several passengers shook their heads in bewilderment. Humans, they thought. Absolutely unpredictable. But watching the unlikely pair disappear into the crowded station, some of the passengers found themselves wondering if perhaps they'd been too quick to judge, too ready to let their senses override their curiosity. After all, if a human could find something familiar and comforting in the most alien of scents, what other connections might they all be missing? In the vast galaxy, it seemed, humans had once again demonstrated their most dangerous quality, the ability to find kinship in the most unexpected places.